Welcome to Game and a Half Podcast, the only podcast that covers everything in gaming. Today we're going to be looking at topics on r/true gaming. I'm Kai.
And I'm Jared, and today we have a special guest.
A special guest.
A special person. This is Tyler, everybody.
Hi, I'm Tyler.
And Tyler is a fun boy that likes video games.
A fun boy.
A fun boy.
Fun boy is a really gross
combination of words. I don't like that introduction.
You didn't give me what you wanted to introduce you as.
Okay.
Tyler, what kind of games do you like to play?
Tells you before the podcast,
yeah.
I don't want to talk about this, asks anyway.
Yeah, I play
You have 30 seconds of what you like to play.
Yeah, I play a slew of different things.
Gross words. Tyler's a fun boy who plays a slew.
I play many slews. Yeah. Mostly first-person shooters. Really, battle royale games are kind of my thing right now. I'm super into Apex.
You've been playing a lot of
Moment.
Apex. Love an Apex.
I've been playing so much Apex when I have the time to.
So much Apex.
And it's kind of weird because I played across 3 different consoles at the moment.
You play across 3 different consoles?
Well, yeah, because when I'm at home, I either play on my PS4 or my PC. And then when I'm at my girlfriend's house, I'm playing on her Xbox. So it's kind of weird.
Just constant Apex. Just grinding out levels.
Constant. It's a good time. It's a good life.
Awesome. Well, today, guess what, everybody? Pokemon came out.
Not today.
No, Pokemon didn't come out today. Pokemon...
By the time you're listening to this podcast, it'll be like 2 weeks ago.
No, I'm going to edit it, and it's going to come out on time.
All right, 3 weeks ago, you're right. He's the one editing it.
50%
But Pokemon
of them will finish the game.
I wouldn't have...
No, Jared, third gym, 11 hours in.
I mean,
Really?
okay, hold on. It's a long game, but we'll get to that. So Pokemon Sword and Shield have come out. I picked up Pokemon Shield, and I'm very much enjoying my time with Pokemon Shield. There is gripes that I have about the game, but going into this knowing a lot of the hostility and toxicity that was coming from the game, a lot of that was it was just misrepresented. Like a lot of the things that people were posting and leaking on Reddit and stuff like that, like talking about the Pokédex being cut, and they did do that. There's probably like 450 or 400 or so Pokemon in the game. But they're like, oh, there's not going to be any starters. There's not going to be any legendaries. There's starters from previous games and there's legendaries from previous games. There's not all of them, but there is some of them. And then people talking about like reused animations and graphics. I mean, it's not a beautiful game. It's not the most pretty game on Switch, but it still looks okay. I mean, the wild area is pretty bare bones visually, but other than that, the game looks beautiful. But it's good. I'm enjoying my time with it. Kyle played 30 seconds. Not at all.
Jared make excuses for Pokemon for the next hour. The wild area is not great, but it's not bad, and the graphics aren't amazing, but they're not terrible.
Yeah, and they were working with so much more power with the Switch.
They were.
And they recycled the same old crap. It's like having the opportunity to use Unreal Engine and then not.
Yeah. I think one of the most disappointing things about it was just that in the wild area you have the ability to have a free camera, and I think that's really what makes Pokemon feel open. And then you go out of the wild area and it's more back to the fixed
And it
camera.
reminds you how terrible it is.
No, yeah, exactly. I don't like that because I remember right after I left the wild area and I went into the fixed camera, I was trying to move the camera around. I didn't have the option to, and like you were talking about, it wouldn't have been that hard to just
they designed everything in 3 dimension.
Right, just have that camera in those fixed camera areas, and it would have made the game so much better in my opinion.
It's like they almost didn't know that open world gaming was gonna work.
Well,
That's how far behind their thought process is. They're like, we don't know about this.
Open world games don't exist.
We don't see this working, but they want it, so we'll give a little bit to them.
I think they were just like, should we do this? This might not work. Let's kind of do it. Let's make a small portion of our game open world, and let's see how it works.
Yeah.
And then they're like, I mean, the rest of the game like looks beautiful and is like very rendered out, and there's a lot of like stuff going on, and the wild area is just like grass and trees and then just nothing else. I mean, they have the Pokemon like throughout the like
but even
open
the wild
world
area doesn't change that drastically as far as like
or like aesthetically it doesn't
environment
look right.
goes. So like That would have been a simple thing. Like in all Pokemon games, there's like a sand area, and
Right.
there's like
And there is a small like
lot.
desert section, but most of it's just grass. The weather changes, but that's the only thing that changes.
The weather. My goodness. Also, where's the desert in the UK? Anyone want to point that to me on a map? Oh wait, there isn't one.
Hey, don't.
Clearly, the Pokemon team did a great geography.
They didn't actually go to
Study
the
right
UK.
before
They
they-
just looked at a map. They're like, "That's probably a desert right there. Let's put a desert right there." But I went into this game blind, so the Pokédex leaked and everything, and I tried to avoid as much spoilers as I could. I just looked up the starters and everything like that. So it's really cool just to experience Pokemon for the first time, like in the old games, like when we play Red and Blue and we didn't know, or Gold and Silver.
Before the internet. And
Before the internet.
everyone
and-
ruined everything all the time with leaks and
Right.
hacking.
when you didn't know what Pokemon you were going to run into or what Pokemon were available in
It was
the
a
game.
simpler time.
Yeah.
I was always blind then.
I always couldn't see. But yeah, it's really cool, like running into a Pokemon that I have never seen before, or catching that Pokemon and not knowing like when it's going to evolve or what it's going to evolve into and stuff like that. That's just really cool to do. It's a really fun experience. What, Kai? You're shaking your head. I feel like you have an opinion over there.
I have no opinion.
Tickling on your lips over there.
Tickling on my lips, on the tip of my tongue.
But Tyler, you've played Pokemon probably
I-
since Red and Blue,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I definitely have.
and you like Pokemon, and you haven't gotten Sword or Shield yet. Why have you been hesitant?
Well, I don't know. I started playing Sun and Moon, specifically Sun, for... I probably played for maybe 45 minutes, and I just thought it was really repetitive, especially when I'd be battling some low-level Pokemon, and I get him down to his red health, and he'd call in 6 more.
Right.
And I'm just like, okay.
That's not in Sword and Shield.
Good. I'm glad to hear
But
that.
no, like the whole SOS
that was
thing. I mean, that was good for like shiny hunting.
It was good for shiny hunting.
But
That
if
was
you
all
weren't
it was
shiny
good
hunting,
for.
it was just like annoying Pokemon that would keep coming back in,
Yeah.
and then you get it down to red, and then it'd call on another one. You'd be stuck in this battle forever unless you just decided to run away. But
Yeah, but sometimes you couldn't run, especially with like some dumb Rattata
right,
that it's just like, okay, what's worse than one Rattata? 6 of them.
thousands.
Yes.
Just a
Oh, yeah.
herd,
Just a herd of
a
them.
wave of Rattata coming on.
So, I mean, it was cool that they tried to do something good, but for me, it failed miserably to where it just made me tired of the game.
I mean, Pokemon's kind of like 2 steps forward, 1 step back kind of thing. Like they here's this new thing that we're doing,
Yeah.
and then it's like, oh wait, we're limited in this sense because they have a small team, and that's always their excuse. Like, that's the Pokemon.
Then hire some goddamn people.
Right, exactly. I just was
Someone
listening to a
gonna buy your
podcast.
game.
It's like, hire more people then. Make it better. Make your game better. But, so yeah, I just beat the 3rd gym a little bit. I think I'm going towards the 4th gym,
11 hours in.
and I'm about 12 hours in.
Which, no, the normal playthrough time is like 15 hours.
No. People said they
He's
have.
just diddling himself.
People said on Reddit that like I have beat this game in 15 hours, but I also
saw-
was diddling myself while I was playing through it.
You were what?
Diddling myself.
Oh.
He was sitting in his campsite in the open area.
I was playing with my Pokemon. Yes.
He's like, look, I can make curry. Look, I can make curry.
You want to skip those things? How am I supposed to review this game if I don't do everything that's involved in the game?
Cooking a cup of instant noodles out in a
Yes, it's
freaking poorly
magical.
designed field somewhere.
It's beautiful.
It's pretty much just, what was it, Nintendogs? It's just Nintendogs with Pokemon.
Well, and they've had this before with like the Pokemon and Me and like Refresh that you can do. It just wasn't like a campsite. It was just you can bring up your Pokemon, you can pet them
you
with a
pet them
stylus, you
ahead,
can feed them
yeah.
food, and it's that same thing except more open, and they're like walking around an area and stuff like that. But
I just feel like it's not necessary. It's just another mechanic in the game that they wasted time and money on.
I think camping heals your Pokemon. I'm not 100% sure if you're like in the wild area and you have low like health, that you can camp and you can heal your Pokemon and everything. In this game, they now have autosave feature. So if you were someone that didn't like to save all the time, then you have the ability to autosave. But if you don't want autosave on, you can turn autosave off. So it's like it does give you that option.
Another thing that the Pokemon team was like, we're not so sure about this whole autosave thing.
We give you the option to turn it off, but I like having the option. So like in
Not sure. I don't trust it.
in other games, like the EXP share, which is another thing that I kind of don't like about this game, was an item that you got. And you can give it to one of your Pokemon, or like in some of the recent ones, you can turn it on or off. But in this game, it's permanently attached, so all your Pokemon get relatively equal experience. I mean, if you've used one, it gets a little more, but all your Pokemon on your team pretty much get the same experience throughout battle. I mean, and that's fine in the sense of like quality of life things. We're not having to grind, you're not having to do all that. But it made me less convinced to use other party members. Like I was just using one Pokemon, and I was essentially solo running with one Pokemon, and then everyone was gaining experience, and I never used my other ones.
Yeah,
Well,
that's where
I
this-
would go ahead.
No, you go.
Well, I would do the same thing even when they weren't getting XP share.
Just use the one
I'd
Pokemon.
just be grinding out one Pokemon
Right.
until I had a powerhouse, and then just complete crap.
Yeah.
In
And
my party.
And I think it wouldn't be too bad if you had the ability to turn like the XP share on or off, but you don't even have that ability to do that. Like it's always on, and like you don't even have the option to. I think it's always good to give some like people the option to turn things off if they wanted to, but
Like autosave.
like honestly, see, Kai understands.
Thinking in my head and glaring at it, but you can't see it. But okay, first of all, why would you not want to get experience to your other Pokemon? Also, the whole point of Pokemon is battling typing against typing.
No, and that's
So,
one of the
like-
things. I do switch out for type advantages and stuff like that. So
So like even if you, and that's the benefit, because before, when you couldn't, or you had one EXP share that had to go on a specific Pokemon, you'd have one really like yoked Pokemon that was like a single typing and was great against pretty much everything until you
Right.
found its weakness, and you're screwed
You're
because all of your
fucked.
you had one that was like level 32,
Right.
and 4 other ones that are level like 24, and you're like, oh man.
and
I
that was
remember I had these.
And that was people's concern as well, that having this like always on EXP share will just make your Pokemon like extremely overpowered and you just fly through the game. It actually is pretty balanced, like going through the game. I've noticed that like my Pokemon are pretty on par with wild Pokemon I run into and with like trainers and gyms that I battle too. So the XP share keeps your levels pretty constant and consistent.
Talk a little bit about the wild area and the leveling of the Pokemon that you run into.
Yeah, so you actually can get into the wild area before you even get to the first gym. So probably like an hour or so in, you get access to the wild area, and it's just like the open world area. And in the wild area, you can find Pokemon that are pretty on par level with you. But then you can also run into Pokemon that are like level 50s and 60s as well in the wild area when you have like level 10s. And what they do with that is it kind of, I guess, wants you to establish like a level of fear when you're seeing these like big Pokemon. And you're like, if you run into it, you can't run away. You have an item called a Pokédoll, and if you have Pokédolls, you can automatically run away from wild Pokemon. But if you don't have one of those, then your level 5 Caterpie won't be able to run away from this level 50 Steelix that you run into. And you also can't catch these Pokemon that are higher level because they didn't want you to just run around before the first gym have a level 50 Steelix before you could do anything. So there's areas and like patches of the wild area that have certain levels of Pokemon. So you can run into one and it'll be like 25s and 30s, and then if you go farther in, it'll be like 45s and 50s, and then 60s even farther. So you can go to those areas and explore them, but you also have the chance of running into one and not being able to escape. So,
But is it like a game locked area where you can't catch them? So say before the first gym, I just want to grind out my starter Pokemon plus a Caterpie
right.
to level 50. And then that means I can take on a Steelix or level 50 Pokemon.
Right. I
Pretty
don't
even-handed.
think because it's attached to kind of like old Pokemon games where
Yeah,
they won't obey you unless you have the gym badge. So once you get the gym badge, you're able to catch Pokemon that are higher levels. So I think even if you grinded to level 50 in the wild area, you wouldn't be able to catch level 50s until you beat the gyms that are associated with level 50. Because
Okay.
they're saying like it won't obey you, or it's like, or it's not even like it's your Pokemon. It's like this Pokemon's too strong and it's too, I think their excuse is like it's too focused for you to be able to throw a Pokeball at it or something like that. I don't know what
Interesting.
the thing is, but no, you have to beat the gyms, and it's like when you beat the gyms, it's like Pokemon, you can catch Pokemon up to level 35 or
Yeah.
catch Pokemon up to level 50, and then when you go into the wild area, you'll be able to catch those Pokemon that are those higher levels. But it is terrifying because when the Pokemon pop up and they see you, they chase after you. So like I'll go into an area and there's a Steelix, and then the Steel, or like you were watching me and I was being chased by the Garbodor, and it started chasing me, and it's like you can run away from them, but if you get close enough, they will chase you, and then if you get
Yeah.
caught battling with them, then you're just like, I'm screwed because this Steelix is going to screw my entire team. But yeah, but like I was saying before, like visually, the wild area isn't great. It's like.
and I think it's sad because the wild area is not great, but I think they used it as almost an excuse to not flesh out the other paths of the game. Because, like, the actual routes in between the places that you're going aren't visually exciting. They're not necessarily like
They-
impressive in any way. And I
Right.
think that if they would have not focused on the wild area and getting that done, they would have spent more time actually designing
Right.
the paths.
Well, that's why I'm worried about, like, a lot of people saying, like, oh, I want a Breath of the Wild Pokemon. And if I had a whole game that was just the wild area, I think people would be pissed. Because it's like, like I said, it's pretty bare bones. Like, there's not a lot in the wild area at all. I mean, it's cool because we have the Pokemon walking around in the overworld, which I really liked from Let's Go. But other than that, there's nothing else in there. You can find items. You actually have a separate currency than like your Pokédollars called Watts that you collect in the wild area from catching Pokemon and battling trainers and stuff like that. And then doing the max raid battles, which is also the thing you can do in the wild areas. And as you go through the gyms, the max raid battles get higher and higher level Pokemon and Pokemon that you can't normally catch just in the wild. And they're pretty fun. I mean, I imagine they're more fun with people because that's one of the cooperative things, not just doing it with like, because you can do it with the NPCs, you can just do it by yourself. And they'll add like 3 random characters in there, but I imagine that it's much more exciting when you're doing it with friends that I don't have.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions?
How is the gyms compared, and how does that system work compared to the other games?
So the gyms are really cool. So in this game, it's back to the traditional like gym battles that you do, where Sun and Moon had like the challenges instead of the gym battles that you do, and they kind of like combined that with it. So before you fight the gym leader, you have a thing called gym missions, and it's kind of like little mini games before you face the gym leader. So like with the first one, you have to herd Wooloo, which are the little sheep Pokemon and they're super adorable, and they roll when they move. It's super cute. But what you have to do is you have to herd them into, hey, stop, they're adorable. You have to herd them into little panels, and it's like cut off into sections. So it's like, get 20 into this area, and then they break free, and then they have like obstacles. So they have other Pokemon running at it. Yamper, which is like the little dog Pokemon, will be running at the Wooloo, breaking them into a bunch of different directions, and you have to herd them and bring them into the thing. And then after you defeat that mission, then you can fight the gym leader. And then the second gym, I think, was more traditional Pokemon. It was kind of like a waterfall puzzle that you have to solve and move switches and stuff like that to get to the gym leader. But did I say third gym or second gym?
You said second.
Okay, cool. The third gym, which is the fire type gym, was interesting because what you do is you have to catch Pokemon, and every time you catch Pokemon, you get points. But there's also another trainer there so it's kind of set up like a double battle. So like a trainer here, and then it's you, and then a wild Pokemon, and you have to try to catch the wild Pokemon. But the trainer is going to attack your Pokemon to try to stop you from catching the wild Pokemon. So it's kind of like you're catching a wild Pokemon, but you're also battling a trainer at the same time. And you can choose to attack the other trainer, or you can attack the wild Pokemon. And if you kill the wild Pokemon, you get 1 point. And if you catch it with a Pokeball, you get 2 points. And you have to get a certain amount of points. And I thought that was interesting because it kind of combined both of Pokemon's mechanics of like battling wild Pokemon, but also battling trainers at the same time, which I thought was pretty cool. And I've only got to the third gym in my 12 hours of playing. So,
What starter did you choose?
I chose Grookey because I didn't like Sobble.
Well,
And
I feel like most people first liking Sobble. I don't know. They just.
I know I didn't.
I heard his little intro is very off-putting to people.
Yeah, it's weird because since whatever Pokemon you pick, your rival will pick the Pokemon weak to that.
Yeah.
Kind of like in Sun and Moon. So I
And
picked
like
Grookey.
every other Pokemon game.
No, usually your rival picks the one. Oh, sorry,
Yeah, your rival always picks the one that.
the one that's weak against. Yeah. So Hop, your rival, picked Sobble because I picked Grookey.
Okay.
I hate Grookey's middle stage. It's awful. Have you seen a picture of it?
I have not.
P Yellow Drummer.
So his name's Thwacky,
Thwacky.
if that
Jesus.
puts it into context at all. And I just don't like him because he looks very similar to Grookey. And he's a disgusting piss yellow. Look at that.
Oh, God.
He's gross.
He looks sickly.
Kill
He's
him.
got
Actually,
jaundice.
all of the stage 2 evolutions are
Right.
bad.
None of the stage 2 evolutions are good. And this is
Like,
what.
he just looks like a stoner.
Yeah, that's
A little
Sobble's.
hipster.
Yeah.
And this is Grookey's final.
I saw one earlier today that was very interesting to me because it just literally looked like a Squirtle and a Mudkip had a love child.
Oh yeah, I think it's Jottle.
Jottle.
Squirtle and a Mudkip.
Oh, this is not. This is when I Googled Jottle.
that is not
Pokemon. Yes, I don't like Jottles. Maybe his name's not Jottle.
No. Yeah.
This guy.
Yeah, Mudkip and Squirtle.
I think his name is
Love
Jotto. It's something like that. Something like Squirtle and Jaw combined together. I didn't like him. I had him on my team for a hot second. And I was like, eh. But there's a lot like Toxel, which is one that I just caught recently. So Toxel, and they've been experimenting with types as well. So like Toxel is a poison electric type, which is really cool. And Kai, you didn't get to see. Let me move this over here so you guys can see.
Pretty cool.
But you can see his evolution because I just evolved him. But these are the two evolutions that he turns into. They're super cool looking, and
They were like, all right, we got to do evolutions for this one, and they went for the second one, and then they ran out of time, and they were like, change the color.
change the color. Yeah, so he changes appearances depending on the nature of the first one.
Oh, so they're the same.
They're the same.
Oh, okay.
That would have been nice to explain.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
so Toxel has one evolution or the other based on the nature of Toxel.
And which did you get?
I got this one.
That's clearly the superior.
I think mine was Rash, but it's like 5 or 6 natures here gets you this one, and then like 5 or 6 natures here gets you the other one. I think they have different stats. So this one's like special attack, special defense, where this one's more physical and has the physical defense. But I thought that was
seems
cool.
like a Pokemon that you'd use more of a special attack type move.
Yeah, especially because he's an electric type.
Yeah.
So like moves like Thunder and
Unless
Spark
you have
and
like Thunder Punch. There's
right.
not a lot of
There's not a
Yeah.
lot. Nuzzle I think is a physical type attack move, but there's not a lot. But that one's really cool.
Nuzzle up to your opponent.
the animation's ridiculous too. It just jumps and turns both directions and jumps and turns both
Yeah, that's
directions.
another thing that people don't like is like those reused animations like that. But there's another
Oh,
one
yeah, I
called
heard that was a
Sizzlepede. He's super cool.
Okay,
Sizzlepede.
this is where we're gonna address Mustache Gate in this game.
There's and then he evolves
There is
into
an unreasonable amount of mustached Pokemon.
and then he evolves into this
There's
thing.
so many.
Oh my.
They just think that all British people have horrible mustaches.
Well, because there's another Pokemon called Nickit. Oh god.
that's a man. It's definitely a
Pokemans.
man
Yeah, and he's an adorable little fox.
with a mustache.
And then he evolves into this Pokemon called Thievul.
With another mustache.
That is a mustache. And I was like, oh. I don't know. Mine was like a lady fox. Not that if you're a lady you can't have a mustache. But I didn't want my lady fox to have
Wow,
a mustache.
it's 2019, Jared. Hashtag lady mustache, hashtag feminism. How dare you?
Hashtag lady mustache. But I didn't like his mustache. I was like, I had my cute little fox and his little
Can't
girl.
even say her mustache.
I can't. It's his mustache. I'm sorry.
Wow.
But yeah,
They're gonna get me too to just you can't accept this
To answer your-
feminine mustache.
to answer your question, there's been a lot. I'm really liking a lot of the Pokemon designs.
Yeah, I feel like it's better than what they had before with like a floating sword and like a sandcastle.
Oh, don't speak too soon because there's a Pokemon that's just a legit an apple.
Oh,
but
Oh, I didn't
but
see his evolution yet.
it's a
Spoilers, my eyes!
It's a dragon type.
it's a dragon type.
Yeah.
It's grass.
Whoa.
It's grass dragons. Look, it opens
Whoa.
up and it's like a
It's really
grass
cool.
dragon.
It's like a Bakugan.
Yeah.
Does look like a Bakugan. Yeah, so I'm really,
Yeah, that one's cool.
I'm really
I like that.
enjoying. Oh wait, here and then you know about Yamper, right?
Yamper. No, I didn't.
So Yamper's a little corgi Pokemon,
Okay.
and
Very
he evolves.
meme-ish.
He evolves into Boltund.
Bolton.
Boltund. Yeah, and he's like a cute little doggo. He's a cute little doggo.
That is a cute little doggo.
Yeah.
A floofy woofer, as I might add.
So I'm actually really liking. I was worried because when we first talked about Pokemon Sword and Shield, Kai, you talked about how derivative the starters were, and I was really worried that that was going to reflect to all the other Pokemon. The starters throughout their evolutions are still pretty derivative, except for Yoked Gorilla, which.
Really. It's also derivative.
But I'm really liking that they're messing around with like new typings, like an apple Pokemon that turns into an apple dragon. Like what the
That
hell?
one
That's
is
I
crazy.
do like the apple dragon.
Yeah, that's so cool. So I'm
Yeah,
happy.
I mean, they've never done a dog Pokemon before.
That one's less exciting. What did we see just earlier?
That evolves into a bigger dog.
the sand
I
snake.
mean, they
More
have
pokies.
They have a broken understanding of how dogs work. They're
Yeah.
like, corgis just turn into greyhounds. That's how guys work.
Corgi, but pokier.
But to poke, look at that pokey butt.
And then
Look at
Eevee
that
somehow
pokey
turns
butt.
into a cat. I don't understand how that works.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm really enjoying, from what I've seen so far, I'm really enjoying the designs they went through and the decision to have new typings. This is what I wanted. Oh, the starters, because for the most part, the starters, their final evolutions have like second typings or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So all 3 starters are the same type. So they're all grass, fire, and water. They don't get a secondary typing at all, which I was like,
Well, that's kind of nice.
interesting. The only other Pokemon that has that doesn't have a second typing is Typhlosion. Typhlosion is pure fire, but for the most part, well, Blastoise is pure water. But for the most part, like most of the starters had a secondary typing
Like
to
Fire Dragon or
Right.
for Charizard.
Water.
Charizard's fire flying. But
Fire Flying. Which doesn't make sense. Definitely
he becomes a dragon type when he Mega Evolves, but only Mega Charizard X.
Let's talk about
Mega-
Dynamax.
Okay, so we'll talk about Dynamaxing, and I mean
What is Dynamaxing?
what is Dynamaxing?
That's a great question.
So-
Even mock it in the game. That's how bad it is.
So
God.
I forgot what the material is called, like wishing stars or something like that. I don't know.
Lord.
So Dynamaxing is a phenomena where you can make your Pokemon big.
With steroids.
Wow.
That's it. They get bigger. They get stronger, and they
Stay
get
bigger?
they stay
No.
big for 3 turns. So it's actually more of a strategic move that you have to do when you not in the game, because it's super like you just push Dynamax and then you use a move and it kills the other person's
Yeah.
move. But I imagine in competitive will be more like strategic, and like if you Dynamax first and I have to Dynamax, it's weird saying Dynamax, it's a weird ass word, but they also have Gigantamax.
Wow.
So Gigantamaxing it changes the form of the Pokemon. So it's Mega Evolution. It's the same thing. Like
No, it's not. It's different. No. It says Pokemon.
So you don't want to Dynamax when someone Gigantamaxes,
Oh,
because you're
no.
going to have a bad time.
As long as someone climaxes, that's all I care about.
that's all I'm here for. So shocking enough, Charizard got another form. So this is Gigantamax Charizard.
They need to leave. You know what? I'm gonna start.
Leave Charizard alone.
Charizard alone.
Is this accurate
Yeah, that's to
sizing?
scale.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, look, and this is Dynamax Gigantamax Pikachu, Eevee, and Meowth. He's Long Cat Meowth now.
Long cat, yes. Yes,
I
because
love that they're
long
all
is power.
two-tone.
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 So that's a thing.
Meowth got long. Meowth swallowed a couple Viagra, and well, it didn't go the way we all thought it was.
Pikachu just turned into Chonk. Just look at him.
I know, Pikachu's a chunky boy.
He is a chunky boy.
But one of the really cool parts, not necessarily about Dynamaxing, I think it's okay. It's more of just like, when everyone saw it, they just kind of laughed and were like, this is Pokemon. This is Pokemon. You know, this is definitely a Pokemon move. They'd make big Pokemon, that's what you battle with. And it's like, again, it'll add something exciting, hopefully, to the competitive field. But as for, like, right now, it's like, I get into a gym match, I Dynamax. He either Dynamaxes or doesn't. And usually, if he doesn't Dynamax, the move will kill the Pokemon in one hit, for the most part. But if he does, they'll be able to survive a couple times. But other than that, it's not very strategic. But what's cool about the gym battles is the gyms all take place in these giant stadiums, which are really cool. It feels more like an actual like battle and more like a competition that you're going
event.
through. Like an event, right? There's people like in the stands and everything. So that's really cool. This is Gigantamax Dreadnought. He hides in his little shell.
Oh, I thought he had glasses on from this angle that I was looking at. I was like,
What do you
what?
think's glasses, Tyler?
Can't see a thing without my glasses.
First Jared and lady mustaches, and now you hate people with seeing disabilities. People are terrible.
So yeah.
Visually
Do you have any other
impairments.
questions?
I wish I
Questions
was
about
visually impaired, so I didn't have to
Pokemon?
look at these Pokemon.
Whoa.
You know, it was just more shocking why a better version of said Pokemon would need glasses when the previous version did not.
Some would say that glasses are an improvement on man.
Oh, you know, that's the improvement. He can now see.
He
can now see.
He has vision.
Yes,
He has eye plan and
I can
dental.
see. I
medical
can
care.
fight. Yeah.
So
So to sum it up, it's not good. I'm giving it a not good. I give it a
That's-
3 out of 10.
that's you're giving it a not good.
I'm giving it a 3 out of 10.
Interesting. I will say that this game is probably like what I've wanted, like kind of Pokemon to be. Like it's taking the steps towards like if I could have like an ideal Pokemon game, this is a step in the right direction. It's that weird kind of in between where it's like, this is what I want. It's not really fleshed out the way I was thinking it was going to go with like the whole wild area and Pokemon.
Knowing Pokemon, it's going to take 5 more years to get there, though, because this is the
Slowly.
step forward.
Right.
Then there's going to be another step
Then have
forward.
to step back again.
No, another step forward, and you're going to be like, yes, they're getting there. We're going to get there. And then they're going to take 2 steps back, and you're like, fuck, and
Right.
then eventually you get to the place you want to be.
One of the things that I do like is, I mean, a lot of Pokemon games, and this probably has a story, but it hasn't been implemented yet. A lot of Pokemon games have like some story or some cataclysmic event that's happening, and you're the hero that has to save it. But for the most part right now, it's like you're in this town and you're going and fighting the gyms. That's all. There's no...
Gotta catch them all.
Gotta catch half of them because not all of them are here.
Here's some spoilers.
Dex it.
There's 2 U's.
Oh, you remember
There's 2 U's. And then a sword and a shield fall out of the sky. Actually, no, there's a cataclysmic event. Then a sword and a shield fall out of the sky and protect them from the cataclysmic event. And the U's are like, wow, thank God we avoided that. And then they become kings. Because for some reason that story makes sense. This is an actual plot point of the game, by the way.
If you're confused at this point, I just recently got to the part of the story where they start doing a little backstory and like plot development. And it's like
used, by the way. That's the word they use.
A lot. So you go into a vault and there's like these 4 tapestries that explain like the events of this thing called the Darkest Day. And Kai actually summed it up pretty well. Pretty much what he said is exactly what we've heard from the story. So again, it's Pokemon, so the story is not like... It's not gonna make you cry. It's not gonna hook you in. I kind of like this. You're a person. You want to go battle the gyms, and that's what you want to do.
You're a person.
You're a person.
Well, at least you're a person.
At least you're a person.
Literally the lowest denominator of any game is like, am I a person? Am I a thing? Yes.
Then you're good. That's all you need.
I'm not just a bicycle.
You do have a bicycle in this game.
Oh, don't even get me started on this stupid. Why
It's just the color. It's just you don't like the color.
And every time you get on it, you get electrocuted.
No, it's a Rotom.
What?
Rotom's an electric Pokemon. He's inside the bike.
That seems like slave labor.
Pokemon is slave labor.
When does he come out of the bike?
When you put the bike away, then he's in your phone.
So he
forever. Never to escape.
Do you start with this item, or do you have to earn it like
you
the
have
other
a phone,
games?
and it's like the Rotom phone, and that's just what you use as like your map and like to.
So he's your permanent power source.
Yes. That he's willing to do
I'm sure he's
on his
willing
own
to do it.
accord. You get a bike later on.
He gets to
gotcha.
watch in envy as you pet and play with your other Pokemon in the wild.
He's not really considered a Pokemon in this game. He's more considered an appliance. But you know, we won't talk about that. Yes, Pokemon is slave labor. We're making Pokemon fight to the death and murder one another
I mean,
for
I
our
feel like
pleasure.
he's got the best job.
He doesn't have to fight. He can just be a bike. He can be a phone. He can be whatever he wants to be, except for a
Take over the
Pokemon.
world. That's gonna be the next Pokemon game. Is gonna be like the Rotoms are taking over because they're treated like second-class Pokemon.
They're just gonna like harbor tanks and like airplanes and just destroy the world.
The Wrath of Rotom.
You know what? That's actually a more compelling game than this one.
Honestly, the more compelling titles in Sword and Shield would be Pokemon:
I mean,
The Wrath of Rotom.
Yeah, a more compelling backstory than the Dark Days.
Rotoms have been used as slave
Oh
labor
my
for
god,
years.
I would love that
Jesus.
Pokemon game.
Someone's gonna make like a side game of it.
Just like instead of having Pokemon, you just have a bunch of people that you're chained together with, and you have to walk
God.
around like the wild land, and then all of a sudden Pokemon come out, and you have to like punch Pokemon to death.
Or it's like reversed, and Pokemon have taken over the world, and they battle with you. Like you're a Pikachu, and you have to fight. You have to catch humans and make humans fight each other.
Perfect.
Game Freak, hire me.
Terrifying.
That'd be great.
Oh yes.
I would have a team of all fishermen.
Tyler, do you have any other questions about Sword and Shield? Are you gonna pick it up at least to try it out, or are you not
Oh,
convinced?
I don't know yet. I got to see some more reviews on it. It's got to do a lot more to tickle my pickle for $6.
This is better than Sun and Moon. Hands down, better than Sun and Moon.
But that's not hard to do. I'm saying it's got to get back to their roots when
It feels if you've and clearly you've missed a lot of like spoilers since a lot of these Pokemon you haven't seen either, but it feels more like into the roots if you haven't just like dug into all the spoilers in this society where you have to know everything about it. The game, like being unaware of stuff going in, really helps the experience still.
Yeah, I believe that. But I mean, I guess for me a big thing with it was I wasn't a big fan of the X evolutions in the first place.
Like the Mega Evolutions and everything.
Yeah, it's like why have that?
Right.
It doesn't make sense. It like off scales it and then it scales it back in because the opponent can do it too.
Mm-hmm.
So why not just keep it balanced to start with? It's just an extra mechanic that you don't need.
Mm-hmm.
And with this Gigantor evolution, I don't know what it was called.
Gigantamax.
Gigantamax.
Dynamax.
I like
Which sounds like those pills they sell for penises in the
Oh,
back
yeah,
of like
yeah.
every like terrible
Gas
magazine.
station. No.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
extra pleasure with Gigantamax.
That's
Yeah,
exactly- you
checking
see-
out at Circle K, you
Oh,
see it
yes.
right there.
And right on the front, as their mascot is Long Cat Meowth. Gigantamax yourself now.
It's just like a before and after picture, just a regular meow.
Just Long Cat Meowth.
Yeah, so with that, it just sounds like a bad rehash of it.
Right. And I would say, I mean, Dynamax is clearly like a big part of
It's
there's a hair in my face and it's still there. It's part of the story and the plot, just like Mega Evolution was, but it's like
It's just badly done.
right, but it's not
They're
like
clearly trying to make this work. They've had like 4 different versions of it.
Right.
So like,
by the end of this, Charizard's gonna have like 20 evolutions.
here's some advice for you, Game Freak. Battling was never the problem. It's all the other things about Pokemon. The only good thing about the game is the monsters and the battling
Which
system.
is weird because when the people at Game Freak were being interviewed, they said that people only like the story. They go to Pokemon for the story.
That's how out of touch they are.
We talked about this on another podcast, but it was like we talked about how Game Freak was saying that people come to our games because they're interested in the story. It's like that is not why we come to the games at all. We want to catch things. And we want to battle people.
The Last
That's
of
it.
Us, Pokemon,
Same thing.
same thing.
Narrative experiences.
Experiences.
You know, I am glad though that they kept the same wild encounters, or they got
Yes.
rid of the random encounters.
Oh, that's another thing I got to talk about
Partially.
too. So they did get rid of random encounters. So I really liked with Let's Go how you can avoid stuff. Like if you're going through a cave, you don't have to like go through a bunch of Zubats. You can avoid them and everything. And in the wild area and all around Pokemon, it's the same. So the Pokemon show up in the overworld, and you can walk through the grass and you don't have to run into anything. So what happens is a little exclamation point comes up, and you can choose whether or not to go to it or not. And that'll be your random encounter. So if you decide I don't want to go to this random encounter, you can just go around it and leave.
Yeah.
So they kept random encounters in that sense, but it's optional if you want to encounter them or not. Because usually the random encounters are Pokemon that don't show up in the overworld. So they're Pokemon that you don't necessarily see pop up when walking around the overworld, but they only show up as those exclamation points. So it's enticing you to go towards that because it's like, what else could this be? What other Pokemon could I see in this? So
And for me, I was a big fan of shiny hunting in Pokemon Go or Pokemon Let's Go.
it's a lot easier in Let's Go. It's not
Yeah.
easy here.
I believe that. I mean, it's a main
Right.
series game.
I think they made it easier because it was kind of their spin-off side
Yeah.
title on Red and Blue, the original, and it was more to bring in the Go players. They made shiny hunting a little easier. They made the game a little easier in general. It is not as easy in this game. I actually heard
I
it's
believe that.
hard, if not harder, because again they changed how shiny hunting works. So like in Let's Go, it was if you caught 30,
32.
32, then it like changed your odds or something, and you were more likely to get.
Yeah, it went from like 4,096 to like 1 in 320
Right.
something, or 420 something, which is huge.
Right. And now in Sword and Shield, it's not encountered, it's battled. So I think you have to, and what they do is it's like a certain, so it's the same with Let's Go where it's like you're going after one Pokemon at a time, but you have to battle them. So you battle them and beat them. You have to beat them because if you just run away, it doesn't count as one of
Yeah.
the things. And it doubles if you haven't caught any other Pokemon. So it's not like with Let's Go where like your chain breaks.
Yeah.
It just increases your chances if you've never run into like another Pokemon in that area.
Gotcha.
But I've had people that are trying to shiny hunt Wooloo, and it's been like 4 days, and they haven't even passed Route 1, and they're still trying to get that shiny Wooloo, and it's like, I just wait till like the dex is cut in half, wait till you get the shiny charm, and then just hunt after the game. That's what I always try to do.
Yeah.
I would shiny hunt after I would beat the game, because it's usually easier that way.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. You should get it. You should try it out. You got Let's Go!
I'm torn. Yeah, but Let's Go. It was
I mean,
a
it's
new franchise.
It's right. It's like this is the old game you liked with some Pokemon Go mechanics. Have fun. Pokemon walk around the overworld. That's pretty cool.
I'll wait until I can get it at Dave & Buster's.
There you go. There you go. Just save up your Dave and Buster's
Oh, I got plenty.
credits.
I got
Even at how much was Link's Awakening?
15,000.
How many did you have after that?
130,000.
Oh Jesus!
Yeah, no.
He's
I
manager
can
at Dave
get,
and Buster's.
I can get an Xbox like right now
That's crazy.
and still have 30,000 left over.
Tyler was born with a weird set of skills.
Yes.
Where he's
yes.
incredibly good at any kind of carnival game or
Arcade
arcade
games.
game.
Some of us are good at practical things like math.
Me?
Science.
No.
No, not Tyler.
You got a free copy essentially of Link's Awakening. I would say that's a good skill to
You know
have.
what math has never gotten me?
A free copy of Link's Awakening.
Literally anything.
Exactly.
Yeah, there.
I
See?
have a third place award trophy from a math competition my junior year of high school.
You
Yeah,
got to
so
count how
going-
much. You get to count how much debt you're in. There you go. That's a good skill to have.
Going back to practicality, which one of our skills
Tyler
is more
wins in
practical?
this one.
I think there needs to be like a Carney class in high school. 'Cause
Yeah.
He's used more of his carnival game knowledge than I've ever used math, and I took a lot of math. So
I have won multiple 4-foot tall Pikachus.
Yes.
Multiple.
I have won multiple 4-hour plus migraines. So
You win
who's the real winner?
a
here?
migraine. Yeah, I would say if you're skeptical on Sword and Shield, just go look at reviews. And if not, just try it out. And if you don't like it, you can always be stuck with it for the rest of your life.
Here's
'cause you
actually
can't
my
return
ending
things.
PSA.
Yeah, shoot.
Because unfortunately, I really recommend people buy this game, and the reason is because you're right. They actually did step in the right direction, and I'm worried if people don't buy this game, they're gonna regress and they're gonna go back to the old stuff because they're like, people will buy it now. We're never gonna touch it again. So please buy this game so that they actually change things and it actually gets better, rather than them being like, well, I guess we need to work on the story more because that's why people play Pokemon, and I'm just gonna be here like, God.
I mean, I'm not down if you do a good story in Pokemon, but that's never gonna happen. But yeah, check it out.
Yeah, I feel like that's an issue because just looking at the whole thing with Sonic the movie, and I was cracking up when that first ad came out.
I can't
And was
even, like-
oh, it looks so bad. They really need to change this. And then now that they've changed this, like they've changed it and it looks good, I'm just kind of laughing to myself like, I'm still not gonna see it.
Right. Or like I was talking to someone
Wow.
and they're like,
How rude.
they're like, man, Sonic's redesign, it looks great. It's still gonna be a bad movie. Like it's still gonna not be a good
Generally.
movie. But I was like looking at side by sides and I was like, how did Sonic ever look like this? Like
Yeah.
this is some weird like deviant art drawing of Sonic. There's no way.
Just some weird humanoid.
Oh, it was awful. No, he has a great design now. But I mean,
yeah,
it's
now
Jim Carrey's gonna carry the movie and it's gonna be like okay.
it's possible. Anything's
You're not gonna
possible.
go see anything's possible when you're Sonic.
That's right. Yeah, no, I don't plan on seeing it. Like, unless I can torrent it or something.
That's not seeing it, Tyler.
Yeah.
They're not getting money for that.
Well, yeah, exactly. But like, I wouldn't pay money to see a movie for a game that I'm not even that interested in.
You didn't play the Sonic games? You're not
I
playing
played
Sonic
Sonic
Forces?
on like Sega.
Oh,
on
the good
Sega
Sonic.
Genesis.
Like Sonic Pinball or Spinball, actually.
Yeah.
I love Sonic.
Next
Spinball.
topic.
Moving on. I'm tired of talking. Kai, it's your turn.
Oh, hold on. Gotta pull up Reddit.
Read it.
1 minute, guys.
Okay.
How about we take a break, and we'll be back.
In the next topic, segment, we're going to be talking about issues with cutscenes. I like cutscenes, but other people don't.
Oh yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Cutscenes. Okay. We'll be back in a hot sec. Goodbye. But first, we're going to be talking about issues. So, Kai, read the article.
No, you have that one. I have the one about Death Stranding.
I don't want to talk
me
anymore.
read.
No, I'll do it. Okay. This article comes from Happy Lifeu. And he/she says, the issue with cutscenes. Oh gosh, he breaks down what a cutscene is. We all know what a cutscene is, people. If you don't know what a cutscene is.
You don't know what a cutscene is. A cutscene is a portion of a game in which you have no control. They take everything you love away from you, and you're displayed with a pointless narrative ploy.
You can't define something with a negative connotation. Negative. Okay, so she says the issue with cutscenes. I think it becomes an issue when gameplay, a defining element of a video game, is suppressed in favor of something that belongs to another medium, thus limiting the potential evolution of the game. Because the gameplay is what differentiates video games from movies, just like movement is what differentiates movies from books. In cinema, didn't evolve by adding text on the screen or having an orchestra playing background music. It evolved by finding new ways to tell stories using a camera. That was it. That's all she said. To put it simply, I think cutscenes are an issue when they are used to drive a story that could be driven by gameplay instead. I'll agree with that.
I agree.
I agree with that. I think that I like cutscenes, and I think that cutscenes, there's games where cutscenes are used in a right way, in a way that is engaging and entertaining, and other ways where it's like I could have been playing the game and this cutscene is way too long.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Metal Gear Solid, what was it, 3? Had just hours worth of cutscenes.
Really?
That one of their cutscenes was, God, I think it was like 36 minutes long or something like that. It was,
at that point when you're like,
episode.
I should be playing by now.
Yeah,
then...
no, it was actually shocking.
Red Dead Redemption 2.
Oh, I did not like Red Dead Redemption 2.
We didn't like it either.
I didn't like it either.
But see, that's different. We don't. We don't. I think cutscenes work in a story that you're interested in. Like Red Dead 2 just didn't have an engaging story, in my opinion. Like we bring this up so much, but The Last of Us was interesting. The narrative was interesting. I didn't mind putting my controller down to see what was going to happen with these characters. Cow's giving me duck lips of shame.
I mean, they're not something you couldn't have sat through while playing the game. I prefer the Borderlands style of cutscene where you
can move around while this is happening.
and it's someone talking to you, because then at least you're still in control. The problem with cutscenes is video games are awesome because you're the one, for no lack of a better word other than awesome for some reason, you're the one who's in control
You're awesome.
of the character
Right.
the whole time. That's why it's so engaging. That's why people find, it a great hobby, is because they can escape from the world in which they live in to be part of this other world. But if you take them out of that and it's just an episode of television, or if it's just a movie...
But, I mean, imagine this. This is a really interesting movie that you're watching, and then when an action scene happens or when something happens, you're given control of that movie. Like, say you're watching a movie that you really like, and you're able to control the character in that movie. Having both, I think that would be really interesting to do.
Well, they've tried that, though.
Right.
They've tried that with different paths in a movie, such as, like,
what they did with
Final Destination 3? Mm-hmm. Where you had the option
Or what was Black Mirror? Black Mirror did that.
Black Mirror did
that
that.
whole spin-off
thing.
Black
Mirror,
yeah.
Yeah,
well, like,
that was interesting.
Cutscenes are also better when you have selective choice. So there's a bunch of games now that give you dialogue options.
Right, that
actually develops the game, which is way more interesting than doing a cutscene where you have a fixed narrative. Like,
I will admit that cutscenes where like things are happening that I could have done, that's not as exciting as if like cutscenes that are continuing the narrative or like fleshing out a character. Like if it's a dialogue between two characters and this dialogue is important to the character development, and then like later on then I have control and I'm killing zombies or I'm doing some kind of action that wasn't in the cutscene. I think that's fine. Like I think that works.
Let me break down to you my understanding of cutscenes and why I shouldn't. Cutscenes are a graphical crutch that was developed to be able to make things that were 8-bit or 16-bit more visually interesting to an audience that had no other option. Which is why in early games there was cutscenes, because they were like, this is the best we can do graphically, but you can't actually play as this. So there was a discernible graphical difference between the cutscene and the gameplay. Which made sense, because you wanted something that actually looked really good, but you couldn't actually have it within the game. That's like reading a book and then having to go to the next chapter by like watching it on television and then going back to the book. Like, it doesn't make any sense. It's two completely separate
And what's funny
concepts.
is a game actually did that, not with books, but it was Quantum Break.
Quantum Break.
Where it was like
realistic cutscenes.
It was realistic cutscenes, but it also was like a spin-off TV show as well. So it was like there was narrative that was happening in like this TV show. There was also narrative that's happening in the game, and the two worlds would collide and stuff like that. So you'd like play the game and like go watch the episode and like come play the game, and there was that like back and forth. I thought that was really cool. That game did terrible, by the way. It did not do very good.
I don't have the attention span for that.
Yeah.
And I think
there's no way.
I think this is why, at least me and Jared, like horror games so much, because the narrative is built into the gameplay. If you look at most horror games, they're not cutscene heavy. And the cutscenes are like introduction to enemy would be like a short cutscene where but for the most part you're picking up clues, you're looking at items,
I think that cutscenes that are not distinguishable from gameplay helps. Like I think of like things like Outlast,
Oh,
where it's like
absolutely.
you're walking around and then like you're in a cutscene, but it still looks like gameplay, and then the
Yeah.
cutscene ends, but you're still in gameplay. Like
It's the same thing with Borderlands.
right,
Yeah, and they've done that with Uncharted as well. Like they did the cutscenes great in Uncharted. Sure, some
Yeah.
of them were a bit long,
right.
but it never felt cumbersome or that's not a good word for it, but it never felt out of place.
Yeah. No, I agree. I loved Uncharted 4, and a lot of that was very narrative and dialogue heavy. But again, it was a game where I didn't mind putting the controller down and seeing what was happening with his characters,
Yeah,
seeing
'cause
how
you
these
really wanna pay
conversations were
attention
going to
to it.
help develop the character.
But
And then when it was my turn, picking up the controller and continuing.
Yeah, I don't think you should ever put your controller down on a game, though. I think, yes, it worked, but at the same time, if you can develop the same narrative through gameplay, you shouldn't rely on cutscenes.
Right.
Uncharted 4, in the sense of, like, actual story, none of the story is divulged through gameplay. It's all through cutscene, and
Right.
then, like...
There's some dialogue that happens when you're like walking around and stuff like that, but
mo-
for the most part.
But for the
no,
most part,
right.
it's a puzzle game with very cinematic cutscenes, which is the same thing with like The Last of Us. Like, yes, like there are great cutscenes and it's a great narrative. It's what Naughty Dog does really well. They can tell a story through cutscenes. They can't necessarily tell a story through the actual game.
Right.
So it's like, you know, yeah, all right, so you have these great, you know, cinematic episodes, or you have these great cinematic scenes, but at the same part, it doesn't connect with the gameplay. No matter how seamlessly you can transition between those two things, you're always taking control away from the player
Right.
and giving it to the developer.
What
Where
about
it seems like the gameplay is just filler material.
Yeah.
Right. Well, there is. See, the thing is, that's a type of game, though. There's a lot of games where it's all narrative, and the only gameplay that you're doing is like moving the character from one narrative to another. But that's just the style of
Telltale games.
The Telltale games, or like most recently, like Life is Strange, and
Yeah.
the game I talked to you about with the new trans main
Yeah.
character. I already forgot what the name of it is, but those games are just like the whole idea and concept of the game is this narrative that you're just experiencing. Like you're just walking through the story and you're listening to and watching the story as it's playing out. You know, there's not a lot of like combat, or there's not a lot of action that happens. The only thing you're doing is moving the character through this narrative that's happening. But I don't know. I think in some instances it works, and in other instances it definitely doesn't. So
And maybe it's that I'm not old, but older, that like I'd rather read than watch. So like for horror games, like when you find a clue and there's like a long ass clue,
right.
like especially when I'm playing with Jared, like we'll read it in different voices and
That's
we'll
really fun
act
to
it,
do.
we'll act it out. But at least that way you're still part of the narrative.
That's true.
You're discovering something and you're physically having to interact with it as a human being rather than having a character like an NPC spout to you the exact same information. And it's just like
No, I
and
agree.
also like the acting in games is atrocious most of the time. So like
Oh, yeah.
it's fine if you have good actors in games and they're engaging, but 99% of the time the voice actors in games are reject like theater grads who couldn't get any other job and are like whoa,
Hey,
the whole time.
That was really good.
And
I
it
mean, that was a
kills
pretty
me.
accurate claptrap.
Yeah. I mean, honestly.
right there.
Actually,
Claptrap is the shit, though.
hot take, Claptrap is amazing.
it was really controversial because the Claptrap in 3 isn't the same voice actor, but it sounds just like
sounds
Claptrap.
exactly the same
I didn't
to
have any
me.
problems.
And
I was
think,
worried.
I think a lot of the success in Borderlands comes down to the fact that you are still part of the game, even though the characters are interacting.
But
And
there
the cut-
is
there are-
story that there is cutscenes where you're not involved. Like
Yes.
they're just
But
not
they're
as
they're very short,
Right.
And they're very like it's like an introduction to gameplay. It's never
Right.
like taking away fully from the narrative.
What I also don't like is like small sections of control where it's like cutscene happens, you're in control, you walk here, cutscene happens. Things like that I also don't like where it's just like, why did you just play this whole cut? Why did I have to walk from
it's
here to
just player
there?
baiting you.
Right.
It's like, oh, you get to play now. Just kidding, you don't get to
Well,
play.
Why
that's
did
how
you
I
give me
felt
that
the
option?
entire game knack at the PS4 release was. Oh, that was something.
It was
That
something.
was just steaming pile of garbage.
Steam pile of neck.
So
Steaming
I
pile
think
of neck.
as we get better at, because like once again, cutscenes were just a graphical crutch to tell a narrative. Once you get good enough where you can have the
Right.
same cutscene but still have the player in control, it makes no sense to have a cutscene.
Right. And a game that I've seen or heard that does this really well, that just come out recently, Death Stranding. Like Death Stranding is a game where it is very narrative focused. There's little complex and conflict that you're engaged in. A lot of it's just you traversing the world, moving from one point to another, and then the story happening in between. But that game has been received really well. Again, if it works well and if it's done well, these are not great voice actors, but these are actors. These are famous actors themselves. If it's done well, then I think it can be entertaining and it can be engaging. But
And talking about Death Stranding, got those segues.
ooh, those segues.
So there's been a controversy. Jesus Christ. There's been a
I've been
controversy
smoking for
Violent.
40 years.
in the Gameverse, which is ever all the rage all the time. People are just
Internet is always
violently angry. The product placement in Death Stranding.
not just the product placement, but the specific product placement of Monster Energy drink for some reason. In this post-apocalyptic world where everything, the Death Stranding destroyed the world and you have to reconnect it, but Monster is still going strong in this world, and there's a lot.
I would expect this from a AA game or an indie title. I'd be like, makes sense. You needed the money.
They're not getting
But
Monster.
Kojima, you didn't need the money. He's
Maybe he
on
really likes. If Monster came up to you and was
he's
like,
on some $200 million yacht right now with a big friggin' Monster Energy logo on the side of it. Just,
him and Mads Mikkelsen just sipping Monster out of
sipping
wine glasses.
Monster out of wine glasses. Like, this is the best decision we ever made. I just don't understand.
I don't understand why it's just that. I mean, if you
Because
you're
Monster-
walking around some McDonald's in Death Stranding, that would make a little more sense. But
Monster came to them and they were like, "Hey, we want to sponsor your game," and they said yes, and that was
wouldn't you?
No,
He's
because
lying. He would.
I wouldn't, because if I was as wealthy as those people were, and if I had as much income as they were, I wouldn't need it. They didn't need Monster to make the game, and
No.
the only reason they did it was to get more money. So, like, why? What was the point? Also, it
Just
doesn't-
in case Death Stranding was a flop, they had their advertising money from Monster to fall back on just in case.
Well, like,
That's not actually a fact. That was just.
if the narrative matches the sponsor, it's fine. Like, I would understand if like Sig Sauer and Glock sponsored Call of Duty games. I'd be like, yeah, that totally makes sense. I think it's morally wrong to advertise weapons to 13-year-olds playing Call of Duty, but at least it makes sense
That's
to the
another
narrative.
podcast topic.
But if you're advertising Monster Energy drink, literally the ass of beverages anyway, in a game that is supposed to take place in a post-apocalyptic world, that's what they're drinking? I doubt it.
That's like seeing if you were in Fallout, if you're playing Fallout 4 or the Outer Worlds, and there was like Monster Energy
Or
drinks,
Coca-Cola,
or
like-
Coca-Cola. It just
Well, there's Nuka-Cola.
yeah, well, stuff like that. But if there was product placement in Coca-Cola, it just kind of like Nuka-Cola fits because it's this post-apocalyptic world and it's something that they created themselves. And
Yeah.
it's like,
It's exactly the thing. It's like the stuff that takes you out of a game. Like,
yeah, you're like playing a game and you're like, Monster Energy drink. That's in my world. This is
Yeah.
a
Also-
weird ass world where babies are attached to your chest for some
the
reason.
logic is, okay, people are going to play this game. They're going to see Monster Energy. They're going to go, I want a Monster Energy. I'm going to go buy one. This makes me not want to ever buy Monster Energy ever again.
I also just don't like Monster Energy.
Well, I mean, that's also easy for me because I hate Monster Energy. But it's like, this doesn't make me want it. This makes me upset at the game developer, and it makes me upset at Monster
Yeah,
that
but
they thought
you're-
this was where they're going to break into.
you think about this stuff, like you articulate this stuff. Other people are just gonna be mindlessly playing around,
That's not true.
seeing a monster, and be like, monster. And they go get a
I
monster.
don't think that's true. I hope not, because
think
the
that's
internet is in flames because of the Monster
That's
Energy
fair.
drink.
Debacle.
I don't.
As we talked about for years, the Monster Energy debacle of
Once
2019.
again, I would have no problem is if this was in like an SSX game, or if it was in
I
like
think we've
a,
seen like advertising like that
yeah,
in
like
those games.
Burton advertises
Right.
through those games. Like they have actual things you
Well,
can
yeah,
buy.
that makes sense.
Right. As long as it makes sense.
It doesn't make sense in Death Stranding.
No.
It really doesn't.
That's a terrible choice.
What would have been a company that would have fit into the world of Death Stranding?
Nothing, because some medical corporation that makes like baby tanks.
Baby tanks?
You can't expect to do product placement in that kind of game. Also, Kojima wants to be taken seriously as an like auteur, like game maker. He wants to be in the same bracket as like famous directors. He wants, he wants to be a Coppola, or he wants to
and
be
he
a Lucas.
stated that he wants to start going into film.
Right. you don't see Monster Energy sponsorships in movies like The Irishman, and you don't see sponsorship like that in auteur films. You don't see it in the highest level of film. They don't need it. They have millions of dollars. They don't care. They don't need to put stupid sponsorship in. So if you want to participate in that level of artistry, act like it. Don't just like, oh yeah, I'll take Monster Energy's money and put it in my game.
What if it... This is a dumb comment. What if it's like, we want to help out Monster because our game's gonna be really good, and we want to like help Monster like get some money.
Monster doesn't need help.
They'll sponsor anything.
Right.
They really will.
Please take us. We'll sponsor whatever you want.
Oh yeah. I mean, they probably don't sponsor as much as Red Bull, but they're definitely not on the same tier as Red Bull.
I would have been fine if Red Bull was in.
Really? Why?
No, I wouldn't have been fine.
I was like, you were so serious. I was like, really?
No, of course not. All of a sudden, Norman Reedus just drinks a Red Bull and starts flying away. You're like, oh my god.
He's fighting a big goo monster, and he's like, wait, 5-hour energy. He's like, goes back at it.
I really want to, like, I wish they did something like that where there's, like, a part in the game where he just, like, stops, you lose all control, he grabs the monster, and he's like, refreshing, and sits down and just, like, walks away.
Monster. Yeah. Other than that, it seems like it's a very interesting game.
But,
It was a poor choice. I agree. It's interesting. I don't know what the thought process was. If it was, like, let's get some more cash, then it's like, why? You made, like, 18 Metal Gear games that were very successful, and then... Metal Gear Survive wasn't. That was post Kojima. But after that, you have Death Stranding, which is like your first standalone, like you're out of the whole Metal Gear scene, and you have your own game, and then you throw this in, and it's just like. Eh.
Also, you're out of the Metal Gear scene, and you have your own game, and this is what you do. Come on, man.
This is what you do in the sense of Death Stranding, or the other
like
product.
Well, I mean, and the.
Well, I mean, Death Stranding is kind of genius because it's like. They're like, let's make just a fucking crazy ass game, and it's gonna be on everybody's radar. And it was. I mean, for the longest time, even now, people are still like, they beat the game, and I was like, I don't know what's going on. People finish the game, and they still don't know.
That's not a good thing.
Is it though?
No one goes and sees a film and is like, that's a crazy film. It has to be a good film.
Inception.
Inception's a good film.
It was good, but still, by the end of it, you're like, what the hell just happened?
I don't think this is an Inception.
No, this is not
like
quite
a
an
silent
Inception.
French film where you're like, what the fuck just happened? And then
That's
you're like,
because it's French.
I said silent.
Yeah, exactly. Anything that French do might as
The
well
French
be
weren't
silent.
Racist.
I'm so confused what's happening in this room. Some French hatred.
Okay.
The point is that there are very artistic things that are very artistic and beautiful, and they have a lot to be developed. There are also things that try very hard to be artistic, but fail and just are confusing. And, like, also, know your audience. The people who play video games are not the people who are going to see, like, super artistic, indie films.
Well, that's why Death Stranding has gotten so low reviews, because a lot of these people are like, I want video game, and this isn't it's a video game, but it's an artistic experience.
Right.
And people are like giving it like 6s and like low like 5s and stuff like that, because it's more of an artistic experience, less of what people are expecting it to be a video game.
Right, which is fine. But to charge $60 for an artistic experience and not tell anyone anything about the game before playing it, you're just gonna piss people off. And then put Monster Energy drink sponsorships in it. That's the other thing.
Maybe that's their play. Shit, the artists make sense. They're like, this is the Monster Energy to really throw people off.
If you went to the MoMA and they were like, oh, we have this new, like, installation art, and you're like, wow, and then it's just, like, sponsored by Monster Energy, and there's just, like, if you look at it a certain way, there's just, like, freaking Monster cans everywhere, you'd be angry! You'd be like, what is this? You can't let this happen.
I think, yeah. I mean, if you went there and there was, like, this cool, like, sculpture made out of Monster cans, I'd be like, that's super cool, that's awesome. But if it's, like, sponsored by Monster, I'd be like, well, okay. Well,
now it's less cool.
Now it's less cool. But... We'll see what happens next time.
I take this personally. This is for you. If you ever listen to this, which you won't, but you might.
Because he's gonna be creeping into your film territory pretty soon. He wants to start making movies, so I mean,
Out of my film territory.
he's gonna get right in your film.
Not with this Monster Energy drink stuff.
Yeah.
I will not stand for this.
Okay. Well, that's I'm having a stroke. That's all for the podcast.
He's
This
not
is
actually having a stroke. Don't worry.
this is Three Dudes in a Tiny Closet, your weekly podcast about three dudes in a tiny closet.
He's so hot in this
Yeah.
tiny closet.
I didn't realize what another
It's-
body really did with.
Oh, a lot.
No, this is our studio. It's not actually a
It's
closet.
not gay if it is a three-way.
It's okay.
Okay if it's in a three-way. With the Tyler in the middle, there's some
I
leeway.
was saying he's our honey. Okay, we're gonna stop rambling. This podcast is already too long. We'll see you next week. Peace out.
See
Bye.
you next
Oh,
week.
bye.
Stay classy.